rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Like you guys don't even know who I am. I don't know. It's just something that I don't know. It just seems to be the habit of everybody. That's what they do. That's what they say when they come on to the show or whatever. You know, everybody's sitting here talking about the cold. I would love for it to get cold here. It hasn't done it yet. So, yeah. Anyway. Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. Let's go ahead and get some things kicked off here. For tonight, we have Ms. T of Texas, who is going to be leading us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand. If you are of mind, please stand. Remove your hat. If you're wearing one like me, place your hand over your heart and join in with Ms. T of Texas in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Ms. T of Texas, for giving us that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the pledge in your style. And take that file, whatever it is, attach it to an email, send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. U.S. Abby Girl says it's 30 degrees right now in South Carolina. Yeah, we're like hovering in the mid 40s right now. Uncharacteristic of us for that, but there it is. All right, tonight's headline sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online. Or, if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to, oh my goodness, wrong thing. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are tear and water resistant. Check out that binding. No cheap glue here, folks. It is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages. It's got a 100-year warranty against material and manufacturing defects. You can either return it or replace it, or you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has proven that the information contained within will get you your civics badge in the Scouts. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. And of course, as always, I thank the Institute on the Constitution for allowing me to be an affiliate. Go and pick yours up today. If you haven't already gotten it, you're definitely going to need it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that that our country is being subjected to. There's a lot of stuff that's not in the Constitution that our country is being subjected to. Excuse me, I said that incorrectly. But anyway, I digress. Speaking about our country being subjected to a bunch of things, and Tommy came in late. She missed her own Pledge of Allegiance. That's okay. She did it. She recorded it, so she knows what it sounds like. Anyway, all right. So, unfortunately, when you have a disaster such as what has occurred in Los Angeles and is still occurring in Los Angeles, there is no other choice for people to necessarily politicize it, especially when you have the Democrat leadership of the state of California, as well as the Democrat leadership of the city of Los Angeles, in such a catastrophic failure to perform the one basic function of government, and that is to protect the people. Now, the problem that we have here, of course, is that everybody is kind of looking at, say, Donald Trump, for an example, okay? And Donald Trump is rightfully talking about the failures that the Democrats have performed in and around the state of California. And yet they all are saying that he is wrong for doing so. Well, I hate to tell you this, folks. No, actually, I don't hate to tell you this. Every single school shooting that has gone on has immediately been jumped on and politicized by the Democrats. So don't sit here and tell us, Democrats, don't sit here and liberal leftist lunatic sycophantic followers too on all of the socials. Don't sit here and tell us conservatives that we can't politicize this. Okay? This is, it literally is a failure of government. Fires, prevention of fires, prevention of, things of natural disaster origin, helping people when they are involved in things like this. For the American government, the federal government, it's supposed to be protecting the homeland from foreign invaders. The protecting the homeland from foreign invaders does not include helping out people in a state, California. And I'm sorry, but that is the separation between the state responsibility and the federal responsibility. So, yeah, it is all on Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. It is all on the LA mayor, and I can't even think of her name, but she was over in Ghana at the time, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody saw this. This is really insulting. There was a Sky News reporter that was sitting there asking her multiple questions as to how she feels. What does she think? When is she going to say something? And that woman just stood there at the door. It looked like they were in some sort of a airline passageway to get onto a plane or whatever. And she's standing there at the door just with her mouth closed, not saying anything. Oh, thank you, Nana, Karen Bass. So she's sitting there and she's not saying a word, and he's firing off question after question after question after question with regards to her thoughts, her feelings, what she was doing there. Why isn't she, saying anything, so on and so forth. And all she has to do, all she needs to do is, or all she did do, I should say, is turn around and run away. She is the mayor of Los Angeles. She needs to stand up. She needs to be the leader and talk about this. She needs to get in front of the cameras. She needs to explain her reasoning. She needs to explain why things are as bad as what they are. She's a public servant, for God's sakes. These people need to understand what responsibility and accountability means. Gavin Newsom, who was the one that signed the law, the legislature's law that diverted all kinds of water in order to save the smelt, okay, diverted all kinds of water from this area to the point where the reservoirs were low. And now they, as I told you last night, they have all kinds of water problems. All kinds of water problems. And the funny thing about it is, I saw a clip earlier today. I don't have it, but I saw a clip earlier today of a sycophantic. I think he was the opponent to Karen Bass, and he lost. He was running as kind of like a moderate Democrat, not a Republican, but a moderate Democrat. And he made the comment. He's like, well, yeah, none of the fire people that we've talked to have said that they don't have any water. And then right after he said that, they went to a remote reporter who was on scene. And that was the first statement out of her mouth is, the firemen here tell us that they have no water. I mean, there's no backburning. See, this is all part of forest and land management. Okay, is to prevent wildfires like this. You do things like clearing out dead underbrush, like doing backburning at times to eliminate or at least lower the risk of fire. And they're sitting there, and it's, again, I don't understand these people. They're like, hey, we're gonna put it back to what this place looked like in nature, because the environment is more important than people and people's safety. Yeah. Well, you put it back to nature, and that's exactly what nature is doing. See, what a lot of these sycophantic morons don't understand is when people weren't managing things, there were a lot more fires. There were a lot more fires that were much more destructive, and destructive only in the sense, by the way, that it is part of the cycle of life. Because fire just basically destroys it, and then it grows back anew later. And when you watch and see when things grow back, they grow back thicker. They grow back more full. A perfect example of that, not too far away from me, is the area around Mount St. Helens. When Mount St. Helens blew up and flattened an entirely big, large, massive section. And I've seen photos because a local lumber company, and I won't say who, but the local lumber company here, which owned a large section of the land that was destroyed by the blowing up of Mount St. Helens, they took photographs over time. And they show it comes back. It came back greener and lusher. There was wildlife going back. I mean, granted, it took, a long time, several years, possibly even over a decade for it to grow back. But it's all there. It is a cycle of life, yes. But it's not something that we as humans can necessarily control. Like Buddy Weiser points out on Rumble, he says the Santa Ana winds are a regular thing, been around for hundreds, even thousands of years. And they know this. They understand this. They get this. The Democrats, the Democrat leadership just wanted to divert all kinds of money to put it into DEI programs and, save the fish and all these other things rather than doing what is a minimum requirement of government, whether it is state or federal, is the number one job is to protect the people. That's their number one job. And they didn't bother with it. They threw it all away. Here's a video, very grainy video, by the way. Here's a video of Gavin Newsom, new scum, I should say, but Gavin Newsom from the New York Post here. He actually went so far as to pass the buck when he was asked about the fire hydrants running out of water in the Pacific Palisades fire. Take a listen.
It ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local authorities.
Yeah, that's got to be determined by the local authorities. Right. He's the freaking governor of the state. He should be helping the city. This guy is just absolutely horrible. And of course he says, the local folks need to figure it out. No, you signed the law diverting the freaking water. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, this guy, he's just so disgusting. And what's even worse is you have individuals who are affected by this fire. Like individuals, and this spans the entire strata. Most of us who don't live in California think that Californians are rich, that all Californians are rich. I'm here to tell you, they're not. I've been to California. I've been to some of the lower end places. Not everybody who lives there, okay? Not everybody who lives there actually is rich. And honestly, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, it affects, something like this affects everybody. See, you need to understand. When an earthquake happens, okay, I'm just going to point this out. Certain types of disasters and catastrophes, you generally don't lose quite everything. I mean, yes, there will be some damage. There could be, some destruction. But for an example, when an earthquake happens, most of your stuff doesn't just get completely obliterated if you're in a home. Usually you can dig through the rubble and you can find some things and salvage some things. In a tornado, in a fire, in a volcanic eruption, these things are literally destroyed. And it doesn't matter whether you are, sorry, I got to smack a troll over here on Facebook. Just give me a second here. He's gone. All right. There we go. Anyway, as I was saying, the destructive force of fire and other things like that. I mean, even in a flood sometimes, there might be something salvageable. You may be able to salvage something. There might be some things that you can dry out and be able to salvage. In a fire, especially one of this magnitude and intensity, there literally is nothing. And whether you are rich or poor, it affects you the same. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You guys all know that I am a big fan of James Woods. James Woods has been an advocate for the right. He has been, I've told you about him. He is on X. That's the only place that he shows up, I think. He might also be on Instagram, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, he was being interviewed by CNN. And not so much of what he says is what I want you to get. What I want you to get and what I want you to see and feel is his emotion as he's trying extremely hard to not break down and cry because of the loss of everything that was there. See, what you don't seem to understand is fast-moving fires like these, you don't have time. You literally have to get out. You don't have time to go around and collect your things. You don't have time to grab stuff on your way out. You literally have to go. So let's just take a listen to this interview, and just, you can see on his face and listen to him about it. And again, like I said, you may think that he's like rich and everything. It doesn't matter. Money is not the problem here. But just take a listen.
I'm 77 years old, man. I can't walk up these hills. It's like Mount Everest there. It's like, pretty steep. So, it's just I posted this on X, but Sarah was on with her 8-year-old niece last night. And she came out. I'm sorry. Just, one day you're swimming in the pool and the next day it's all gone. But she came out with her little Yeti piggy bank for us to rebuild our house.
Oh my gosh. James Woods, we all hope that you will be able to rebuild your house, maybe starting with that little Yeti piggy bank. And we're just glad that you're okay and your wife is okay.
I'm sorry,
you have your
I'm
lives.
usually,
yeah, no, I mean, this is real and it's raw.
I thought
and
I would be stronger than this.
You don't need, you are, you know what? Strength is not measured by whether, you hold in crying or not. Strength is what you are doing now and helping your neighbors and shining a light on the great, amazing work of all those firefighters and emergency crews out there. You have so much strength, and we appreciate you coming on to reflect what so many others just like you are experiencing in that raw emotion right now. We wish you the best, you and your wife, as you rebuild your lives. So many people are doing that right now and trying to process what's going on. So, James, and also keep us posted on your 94-year-old neighbor and everything going there. We're going to continue to talk, and we wish you the very best.
Okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
They found him. He's in the hospital.
He's okay,
great.
yeah.
I just worry. If anybody knows where Robert Trinkteller is, call me, let me know. All right.
That's an important message. And also there's this app that's really important.
Did you hear the raw emotion? Again, keep in mind that this man, he was a successful actor. He's a successful producer. He's lived. I mean, if you ever follow him on X, I'm telling you, he's got like all kinds of photos that his wife has taken and all these other things. And it's all gone. Here's an example right here. He took this as the fires were coming around his house before they evacuated.
You're looking good. Your house is not on fire, but it's, I'm here in case some embers land on it. I hope all your windows are closed.
That was on his deck. That was on his porch. He was literally standing in his pool to protect himself from the fire, the flames, the embers. Folks, I can't claim to know what it's like to go through something like that because thankfully, thank the good Lord, I never have. And I hope that more, the majority of people don't. But to have something like this occur and have it occur, it doesn't matter who started the fire, honestly. I mean, yeah, in the long run, maybe it does. If it was started maliciously, maybe you get them in criminal court or something along those lines. But the fact of the matter is that the reason why this got out of control so quickly, and the fact that they didn't have enough resources in terms of personnel, in terms of equipment, in terms of natural resources like water to be able to put these things out quickly, is I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And definitely not Karen just pointed out to me that video that I just showed was something that his neighbor sent him after he evacuated. So this was after James Woods evacuated, and his neighbor sent that to him. Folks, something like this is devastating. The same thing happens with like hurricanes and things like that. You get everything wiped out. And what's bad about this is not so much, again, like I said, it's not so much how the fire started. Okay. It's how the people were not protected by measures that our government and the state governments are supposed to be taking. Like I said, backburning and things like that. They had orders, law orders, that they couldn't water their grass, that they couldn't water their plants because of the fact that the reservoirs were being diverted because of some smelt, which isn't even an endangered fish, by the way. The smelt was apparently because smelt gets eaten by salmon. Salmon's not endangered, but they went ahead and put this into a law anyway. And these people they voted, now granted, they voted this government in. I'm not going to deny that. But this is a shining example of how your choices at the ballot box make a difference. Your choices at the ballot box determine a very large, and again, keep in mind, this is what government is for. The government is supposed to provide things, and your taxes provide things like fire departments and police departments. You want to talk about school shootings and you want to talk about getting rid of guns because of school shootings? No. Talk about putting money, money into things like mental issues, mental health issues, putting money into things like more police, putting money into things like fire departments. They took some of the equipment, some of the excess equipment, they shipped it off to Ukraine. That's where some of this equipment went, some of their surplus, their quote surplus equipment. I mean, this is just anyway. Now, here's the thing though. When you're talking about politicizing this kind of situation, Donald Trump, by the way, told everybody that this was potentially going to happen. He did. He said it on an episode, the episode where he went on to the Joe Rogan Experience. You remember that conversation that they had, and everybody was like jumping on him? First Joe Rogan for allowing Donald Trump to come onto the program, but also they jumped immediately on Donald Trump. You know how they always talk about how Donald Trump, he's off his rocker. He's wrong. He's a deranged lunatic. Yeah. And how many times in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years, has he been right? So here, let's just go and take a listen. This was Donald Trump on the Joe Rogan Experience, okay? And let's just listen, take a listen.
But But let me give you one that you may not know.
Okay.
Which I think you know everything, actually, as
That's
a student of yours. but water, in Los Angeles, you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And you might have a house in Beverly Hills, and they're actually thinking about rationing water. Could you believe it?
I can believe
and
it.
I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway, and I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. You got to see this. We're driving up, and I had never seen it before. It's like Iowa. It's the most fertile land. Iowa's blessed with great land. Idaho for a potato, right? Yeah. But they're just, by the way, some land is good for a potato, some land is good for corn. It's the craziest thing. I love the farmers. They're great. They're the greatest. And by the way, they're getting killed right now.
They are.
They're getting killed because of this stupid administration. But so I see this, and I said, you got to be kidding. I said, you mean you have water? And I looked at it. It's like a valve in your sink, except it's massive. The thing's 5 times taller than your ceiling.
Did you know the center of California was a giant lake?
They have so much water.
You ever see what it looked like before they rerouted it?
I never saw that,
The center of California, what was it, 200 years ago? How long ago did they do that, Jamie? The center of California had a fucking enormous lake in the middle of California.
So they dumped it into the Pacific.
Who knows what they did? But whatever foolishness that they did led to the situation that they're in now.
Think of those dry forests that burned down all over. The head of Austria said,
Tulare Lake or Tachi Lake. It's a freshwater lake in the southern San Joaquin Valley, United States. Historically, Tulare Lake was one of the largest freshwater lakes west of the Mississippi. Show a photo of what it looked like back then.
It's a great system.
So that's what it looked like. Look at that image. Now go to the one on the third from the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an enormous lake in the middle of California. Imagine that.
That'd be much more valuable property.
How crazy is that? But how crazy is that? That's what it used to look like. And human beings screwed that up.
No, they let it go into the Pacific, and then they...
I don't know what they did. What did they do? How did it go missing?
They said they drained it in 83.
Yeah, they drained it.
1983. Oh, my God.
It went dry a handful of times.
Oh, it went dry a handful of times. Well, lakes do go dry, but that's a big one.
But think of it.
So anyway, as I was saying, Donald Trump warned them ahead of time. He told them this. Now, I can tell you from my experience here in the Pacific Northwest, which we've done similar things. There have been, complaints and talks about all the fires that have been going on around here, and even like up north in British Columbia and stuff like that. Okay. But the forest management practices have been literally gutted due to environmental activism. And everything's been gutted. They haven't bothered to clean up any of it. They used to allow people to go up into even the state forests and things like that. Okay. And they would allow people to go up and gather firewood and cut out all of the dead brush and deadfall trees and everything else and do firewood. Now you have to actually have permits to go do this. You have to pay to go up there and clean and clear this stuff out. And even then, they only issue a small amount of permits. They used to have logging roads going up into the forestry places because they used to log these things. And they don't allow them anymore. And those logging roads acted as natural fire breaks, such that if a fire did happen, you could actually get in there to fight it. Now what we have to do in many, many places is you can't get into the fire. You have to attack it from the air, which again is going to cost a crap ton more money and so on and so forth, because and you don't have enough planes and people to fly them, because it's very risky to fly over a fire because of all the thermals that push air up and suck air down and all kinds of things. It's a risky business. But rather than doing things sensible management, they go ahead and they just let the shit go, because it's more like what it used to be. Yeah. Well, now you have, and I'm sorry, but I am sort of in the same boat in a way with the idea of, the encroachment of the human beings onto areas where wildlife exists, and you have these people who complain about the wildlife, and it's like, you're the ones that encroached into their area. They didn't come into yours. You went into theirs. I have the same thoughts when it comes to, like, for an example, there was a dairy farm south of me that had some residents that were complaining about the dairy farm. It was a family-owned dairy farm, and they were complaining about the dairy farm. Well, here's the thing. The dairy farm had been there for like over 100 years. It was a family-owned dairy farm. It's one of the last family-owned dairy farms in our state. And it had been there before the developers came in and stood up all of these freaking prefabbed houses or whatever. And the people that moved into the prefab houses were trying to get the dairy farm to shut down because of the smell. It's like, really? Seriously? You're moving in next to a dairy farm. You don't think that it's going to stink? I mean, that's an awful lot of cows creating an awful lot of manure. But anyway, I get so frustrated with these people, because again, they're just not not smart. They're just not smart. Here, Bonchie, Bonchie on X, Bonchie Red State is at Bonchie Red State is the name, I think. Said here on X, said during Donald Trump's first term, he tried to increase water diversions on federal land to help California's water supply. The state of California and various environmental groups sued him and won. And then she ends up with, once again, owning the orange man took priority over protecting people. Folks, if you think the Democrats are for you, for the American people, they're not. They're not. I mean, this is just... Anyway. Speaking of Trump being right, I got to move on, because it just frustrates me to no end that the government, one of the very core responsibilities the government has, even they screw that up. Or even they screw that up even. I mean, it's one of the core responsibilities is to protect people. Protect the people of your state, of the country. This just frustrates me to no end. Anyway. So once again, Donald Trump was right. Well, I mean, in terms of using things like threatening tariffs to get what he wants. Yeah, you remember those leftists that are like, hey, I hope you guys love those tariffs. I hope you Trumpies, maggots, love those tariffs, because tariffs are going to come, and oh my gosh, Mexico's not going to do the tariffs. Neither is Canada. Yeah, you remember that? Sorry, bad voice. But anyway, I digress. Well, guess what? Here we go. Fox News, Mexico disperses migrant caravans heading to the U.S. ahead of Trump's inauguration. You remember that? I mean, Trump basically said, hey, we'll put 25% tariffs on all of your goods coming into the U.S. All you have to do is stop illegal crossings and start working and seriously stop, as much as you can, the drugs coming across. Yeah. Well, apparently the Mexican government is working hard to break up the migrant caravans that are trying to make the treacherous journey north to the U.S. ahead of President Trump's inauguration in less than 2 weeks' time. Faced with the prospect of massive tariffs on goods under the new administration, Mexico has been dispersing migrants throughout the country to keep them far from the U.S. border, including dropping them off at a once vibrant tourist hotspot of Acapulco, a beach resort town on Mexico's Pacific coast, made famous by the jet set in the 1950s and 60s. Yeah. So, Mexico's doing exactly what Donald Trump wants them to do, and the left sits there and says, oh, tariffs don't work. Tariffs don't work at all. Get those taxes. Yeah, tariffs are tax. No, tariffs, as I've said on this program, are an effective tool when used properly and leveraged in the proper manner to obtain policy changes, in foreign governments. That's essentially what they are. You know, we don't even have Donald Trump in office yet, and he's already winning. He's already winning and doing things for America and for Americans. For an example. Sorry, I had to take a drink. For an example, you remember that East Coast port strike that, Joe Biden was celebrated because he was able to push off the strike until January 15th or whatever? Yeah. Well, guess what? That port strike is now averted permanently. Well, I mean, as permanently as it can get. Anyway, here in Town Hall, port strike averted. And who the union credits is a massive embarrassment for Biden. So who do you think the union, the longshoremen's unions, the longshoremen's unions credit? Who do you think they credit? So a deal was reached yesterday between port terminal operators and the longshoremen's union, averting a massive port strike that would have occurred just days before President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. In a joint statement put out by the union and the port terminal operators, they said, "We are pleased to announce that ILA and USMX have reached a tentative agreement on a new 6-year ILA USMX master contract, subject to ratification, thus averting any work stoppage on January 15th of 2025. This agreement protects current ILA jobs and establishes a framework for implementing technologies that will create more jobs while modernizing East and Gulf Coast ports, making them safer and more efficient, and creating the capacity they need to keep our supply chains strong." It continues, "This is a win-win agreement that creates ILA jobs, supports American consumers and businesses, and keeps the American economy the key hub of the global marketplace." And then a separate statement that came out from Harold Daggett, the head of the ILA, gave full credit to Trump for the deal, telling the incoming president he has proven to be one of the best friends of the working men and women in the United States. He credited a meeting that he had with Trump last month as the reason the union won protections against automation. Quote, "President Trump clearly demonstrated his unwavering support for our ILA union and longshore workers with his statement heard around the world, backing our position to protect American longshore jobs against the ravages of automated terminals," said ILA President Daggett. President Trump's bold stance helped prevent a second coast-wide strike at the ports from Maine to Texas that would have occurred on January 15, 2024, if a tentative agreement was not reached. At a mid-December meeting at Mar-a-Lago, the two ILA leaders met for 2 hours with President-elect Trump and spelled out the cause for impasse in negotiations with the ocean carriers represented by the United States Maritime Alliance. In the presence of ILA President Harold Daggett and Executive Vice President Dennis Daggett, President Trump spoke by telephone to USMX officials to express his support for the ILA. He then posted a powerful message on Truth Social announcing his support for the ILA. President Trump's statement: there has been a lot of discussion having to do with automation on United States stocks. I've studied automation and know just about everything there is to know about it. The amount of money saved is nowhere near the distress, hurt, and harm it causes for American workers, in this case, our longshoremen. Foreign companies have made a fortune in the U.S. by giving them access to our markets. They should be looking for every last penny, knowing how many families are hurt. They shouldn't be looking for every last penny, knowing how many families are hurt. The ILA leader said his union now regards President Donald Trump as one of the greatest friends of organized labor and champion of the working men and women of this country. He's a hero to our ILA union and members. President Trump gets full credit for our successful tentative master contract agreement. So there he is. Yeah. He's for the billionaires and millionaires and not for the American people. Yeah, sure he's not. He just negotiated a contract. See, you need to understand, people, there is one thing and one thing only that Donald Trump actually values more than anything else, maybe outside of a few things, but there's one thing that he values in all of his business endeavors, and that's winning. He doesn't want to lose. He wants to win, and he's going to win as much as he possibly can. He is going to do everything possible to make sure that he can win. Therefore, now keep in mind, he doesn't want to feel in terms of any kind of negotiation, he is not going to take the short end of the stick because he wants to win. Winning to him is important. It is basically everything. But in order for him to feel like he's winning, he has to beat and defeat and get something out of the deal. He will not be on the short end of the deal. I'm fairly certain of that, unless he ends up to the point where he has literally zero choice in the matter. But if he can, he's going to do everything he can to come out on top. This particular case, he is fighting for the American worker, and he was able to at least put together a tentative agreement. Unlike Biden, who pushed it off, thinking that Donald Trump was going to fail. Not so. All right. Here's another win. So a couple of days ago, I talked to you about the Lake and Riley Act, and I told you that the House had passed it, even though all of the media kept talking about how Congress had passed it. It was only the House that passed it. Well, now the Senate has taken one step closer to limit, or to basically get this piece of legislation passed. Here in the New York Post, the Senate advances the Lake and Riley Act, letting states sue DHS for illegal immigration effects, which we should be able to. Hello, it's a constitutional right, by the way, to address our government or redress our government for grievances. They shouldn't have ever been blocked from this, But anyway, today the Senate overwhelmingly voted to limit debate on the Laken Riley Act, which compels border enforcement officials to take custody of illegal immigrants who commit theft and related crimes. The 84-9 vote cleared the way for final passage of the measure, which could take place as soon as tomorrow, enabling it to be one of the first pieces of legislation signed into law by President-elect Donald Trump after clearing the House of Representatives earlier this week on Tuesday. Under the act, states will also be able to sue the federal government for damages resulting from failure to enforce immigration law. The bill, of course, was named after and was inspired by the Georgia nursing student who was attacked and brutally murdered while jogging by an illegal immigrant in February of 2024. There is a photo of her on my screen now. The 9 lawmakers who were in opposition, well, let's see. What's our usual culprits here? Senator Cory Booker, Mazie Hirono, Andy Kim, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, Bernie Sanders, Brian Schatz, Tina Smith, and of course, Elizabeth Warren. You want to know what all those people have in common? That's right, they're all frickin' Democrats. Folks, Democrats are not your friends, okay? Democrats are not your friends. I'm going to say it again. Democrats are not your friends. They are morons. They are the scum of the political spectrum, and that is incredible. That is an incredible statement. Okay? That is an incredible statement to say, that they are the scum of the political spectrum. Because again, keep in mind, all politicians have only one use to the American people, and that is to be a tool in order to accomplish things. The majority of politicians, I'm not going to say all, but the majority of politicians are just as bad as, in fact, most of them are lawyers, and so most of them are just as bad as ambulance chasing lawyers. Okay? But the reality of it is that they are a means to an end. And that's what we need to treat them like, is a means to an end. But hey, at least this law is going into effect. Speaking of things going into effect and possibly another hoax. Another possible hoax. Gee, I saw this and I just kind of shook my head because I knew that this was, this is not done. Okay, you know the whole Derek Chauvin trial? Yeah, that's not done yet, folks. That is not done yet, okay? And the reason why I say that is because there's a possibility that the Minneapolis Police Department chief lied during Derek Chauvin's trial. Take a look at this in hot air. 14 Minneapolis police officers claim the MPD chief lied during the trial. So the overwhelming evidence, according to the writer of the piece, shows that Floyd died of a meth-induced heart attack. So that means that, of course, Derek Chauvin is innocent of the charges, okay? Now, the writer says, I don't dispute that the jury had the right to find differently or that may have reached the conclusion based on the evidence and arguments put before them. However, he says the trial itself on the, is it he or she? He, David Strom. The trial itself, on the other hand, was decided based on a pack of lies pushed by the prosecution. It's clear that high-level Minneapolis police officials committed perjury and got away with it. And he says he came to that conclusion after watching the much criticized and fact-checked documentary called The Fall of Minneapolis by Liz Collins. He says that's well worth the watch. Critics claim that documentary is full of lies. Those critics, of course, are about as reliable as all the fact checkers that Zuckerberg just fired. meaning that they are nothing but propagandists. The evidence is clear in black and white and is supported by other police officers. So here in particular, just to kind of cut to the chase on all of this, there was a bombshell court filing that was put in on a defamation. I think it's a defamation. Let me see. I gotta read real quick here. Yeah. So, MPD Assistant Chief Katie Blackwell, all right, is suing Liz Collins, who created that documentary, for defamation. And there's a problem, though. That defamation case has now gotten a court filing. Over a dozen other police officers provided sworn statements, okay, that Blackwell lied during the trial. These 14 officers have now gone on court record and said that Blackwell has lied. And the reason why is because she testified under oath that the restraint method used on George Floyd was never taught by the department. The problem is training manuals show it. Photographs of the training has been uncovered that is using it. And now dozens of officers have come forward and denied all of this. Yeah. Alpha News, which is an independent news outlet here, or in Minnesota, I should say, has all of the receipts. Liz Collins is associated with Alpha News, and so obviously Alpha News has a reason to defend her. But you can see some of the photos, and there's a link here. Let me see if I can click on this link. Open up a new tab here. So supposedly, yeah, so here's some of the training. You can see it here on the web, or on my screen. If you're not watching on video, you can certainly grab it and watch. But here it is on the training. They're showing the restraint method. Knees on the back. They're showing it. Multiple in training videos. This is, yeah. So anyway, basically, to break this down, because I'm running out of time, is essentially that there is a good possibility that this defamation suit is going to get dropped, I'm guessing, when this information comes to light. And I would say that it will also fuel the potential appeal of Derek Chauvin for the trial, because the woman apparently perjured herself on the stand. So, according to a motion that was put in, 33 former MPD officers who served with Blackwell, and one that currently serves, have all sworn that MPD trained this restraint as part of their maximal restraint technique, MRT, and otherwise. 14 officers have already sworn under oath that their belief that Blackwell perjured herself. These officers, according to the motion, swore that this training was well known. Indeed, it was common knowledge and omnipresent. So there you go. Derek Chauvin was railroaded, I believe, because of the political nature of the situation. One more thing to just kind of talk about real quick. I know a lot of people have problems with Ted Cruz, but Ted Cruz and some of his colleagues have now reintroduced a constitutional amendment to actually impose term limits, even though Ted Cruz obviously has been elected more than the term limit that he is recommending. So the term limit that is being reintroduced in this legislation is to basically limit lawmakers from serving more than two six-year terms in the U.S. Senate, and no more than 3 two-year terms in the House of Representatives. So a senator can only serve a total of 12 years, while a U.S. representative can only serve a total of 6 altogether. And so, yeah, it's, Ted Cruz stated in it, his term limits on members of Congress offer a solution to the brokenness we see in Washington, D.C. It's long past time for Congress to hold itself accountable. So this has now been reintroduced. It was introduced several times in the past, but now he's just reintroducing it again. So we'll just have to see how that comes about. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to Rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up and like buttons on all of my outlets, whether it is Facebook, YouTube, X, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.